Hi, I'm Mark. Welcome back to Foothill Paint Fabrication. Well, we're right back on Project Ruby today, and we're almost done with all the nasty, boring work of taking the car apart and getting it cleaned up. So we're just going to kind of jump right in there. I'm going to go over some of my thought processes on why I'm doing what I'm doing. I'm doing a lot of extra work that some people may think is unneeded. I mean, you're paying the guy a bunch of money. They have to get all that seam sealer off and all that other stuff. Well, the more prep you do ensures that the car will be that much cleaner when you get it back. Their tanks can only remove so much in a certain amount of time. So, the more you can do to hedge your bets to make sure your car is really ready to go, it'll really help the process out a lot. So let's just jump in there and we'll take a look at what I've been doing already. And we're going to get to work on finishing this thing off and get it as clean as possible so it's ready to roll in the trailer and head off to get it dipped. Inside, I went through and I got as much of the seam sealers and the undercoatings or the floor coatings and all that stuff. I got as much out as I could on this side, and I still need to do that side, and there's still putty around where the vents were and all the other glue from the carpet and all that. So that needs to be done. I've got the drain out here. I removed all the plugs I could find. I'm sure there's still some more I need to find. I scraped up underneath the dash where all that stuff was, and I got the bulk of all that off. So when it goes into the tank, it's not coming off inside their tank and, you get more crap in their tank they don't want. So not to mention, by removing all this stuff, it gets their chemical down inside there that much faster. So if the first time they dip it, it's just to get the seam sealer out of the way so it can get down into everything, then that's less chance of it stripping the car completely all the way down to bare steel. So you can do them a big favor and yourself by, you can see right down through here, see how I dug all that seam sealer out of there? And along here you can see it's just cracking and falling off. So you want to knock all that stuff off. You can clean inside where the door panels are and the inside kick panels. I mean, get everything you can off so it goes that much faster when they dip it in the tank, and that the chemicals get right after what you want removed, instead of actually just working on stuff that you could have knocked off with a putty knife or scraper. So let's go ahead and walk around the back. We got to talk about this quarter panel. I already did the trunk, or half of the trunk, and of course the weather stripping and all that, and I got the plug out there. But you can see here where I've dug all that seam sealer out of that groove. That's where we had to cut it to access that body bolt. But I dug all that out. It used to look like that over there. Made a close up. You can see that stuff just packed in there. And it comes out fairly easy on these old cars. So you want to dig all that out, you can. But this quarter panel was full of crap down inside there. And I think this quarter panel is going to have to be changed out. It's pretty wavy. And I remember there's a lot of body filler on here. And if I remember correctly, this corner right here, the wheel well, was pretty bad, pretty rough. Somebody had taken a slide hammer to it and right it by the pinch weld, and it's just kind of destroyed right there. So I put a lot of body filler back on the car. I'm a little embarrassed about that, but I was just a young man then. I didn't have skills. So, I did what I could, and it's pretty wavy anyways. So the quarter panel may need to come off, or a big chunk of it. We won't know that till we get the car back. But what I want to do is get as much of this body filler off so they're not wasting their time trying to dip it and pressure wash it off. I want their chemical to get through it quickly and get the whole car stripped. Otherwise, it may come back with portions still on here because so much body filler they couldn't eat through it in the time allotted, because the car's only going to be there a week, and they will not leave your car in there unlimited amount of time. They have other cars that need to go in. They have a tight schedule. When I called them, it was 13 weeks out. So they leave it in, they pressure wash it off, put it back in, pressure wash it off, back and forth, but then it has to go to the end of the week. It's got to go in the acid, got to be cleaned, got to be treated, and prepped for pickup. So, it only gets to stay in the stripping tank so many days and so many hours. So I want to help them out. So we're going to grind all that off. I'm not looking forward to it, but I'm going to grind as much as I can and kind of get an idea of where we stand anyways. But I still have some plugs to remove. I see one right here. that I missed. There's one up inside there, so you need to hunt all those down so you know, when they dip it, all the goo flows in and out and the chemicals get in there, and really does a good job of stripping. That way they don't have to pop them out too. So let's jump over to the door and get to work on that. Then I'm gonna suit up and we're gonna get maybe some 16 grit out or something on a grinder and just attack this quarter panel real quick. Okay, this is the passenger side door. I've already cleared out all the weather stripping I could. I still got a couple of bumpers to knock off. Those are pretty hard. They practically break off. All this putty here where that seals the water shield, all that's got to be scraped off still. I've got, these are little, I don't know if you guys know these are on these cars. This is a little kind of valve sealing off the drain on these. And so the idea is it lets water out, but it won't let water back in up through the door. Remember the weather strips here, so this is actually on the exterior of the door. So if you were to go through, you know, a big puddle or something, water could splash up and get inside the door, and then that would stop that. But the problem is these things, they're like, you can see the slot right there. They tend to stop debris, because you guys know your doors fill up full of debris. It hits the glass, a leaf, dirt, whatever, and then it ends up falling down to the bottom of the door, and that's ultimately what rusts out these doors, is all that goo in there staying wet. So these still need to be popped off. They're still pliable, believe it or not. I can't believe that after all these years. I never changed them out. But we're getting really close on getting this door basically ready to go. But I was just looking inside, and you guys know, I don't know if you may know this, but back in the day, the slide hammer ruled. You know, guys didn't take body, you know, door panels off and hammer out dents and all that kind of stuff. They just drilled some holes from the outside, slide hammered that out close. Body filler was new, so they just slathered on body filler. It was the new quick best thing. And so, that, you know, a lot of these old cars got a lot of holes drilled in them, a lot of body, you know, slide hammer work done. So I can see the telltale signs right there. You guys see that little nubbin sticking out there? There's 2 or 3 of them. So we're going to go ahead and grind on this door a little bit too to get whatever body fillers off of this thing. But the big project for right now is getting these hinges off. Now these have a Phillips head, but they're also a bolt. Over here, it's a flush tapered screw, and these are the ones I had trouble with on the other one. You can see right here what I had to do is I could not get them out. I tried and tried and tried, so I ended up welding a nut onto it and then put a wrench on there and got them out. So it's not like they were rusted in, but you know, it's a Phillips screw, and I tried you know, my hammer, impact hammer screwdriver thing. I borrowed Dave's, his didn't work, so ultimately I had to weld a nut on there. So let's go ahead and see if we can get these off real quick, and then if we have to weld some nuts on there, that's what we'll have to do. Okay, the first thing I always like to do is take a Sharpie or something and mark the screws so I know if I'm having any luck. So if you smack and smack and smack on it, you can see that line separate, you know you've actually made some headway. If you're smack and smack and just hammer and try and try and try, and that line never moves from the other one, you know you got to move on to, you know, plan B or C or D or whatever you're working on. And I'm going to go ahead and give these a pretty good smack. Try to shock them a little bit, and then we're just going to go for it here. I've got, this is my impact screwdriver, so with a very large Phillips screw bit in it. And the way this works, if you've never used one before, you kind of push in and turn, and every time you hit this, it drives it in, and the mechanism inside here turns that bit a little bit to loosen. It'll tighten too. But so let's go ahead and try this one right here. And it doesn't look like it's moving. The door's moving. The screw's not moving. Let's give it a few more whacks and see what it's going to do. You can see right there I missed yesterday or day before yesterday and smacked my thumb pretty good. No, it's not coming out. That one's not moving either. I think we're just gonna have to grind those clean so we can get a weld on there, and I'll go ground up 3 nuts and we'll just weld some 3/8 nuts on there and just get this over with. Okay, I like to put a weld right in the center just to make sure I've got good contact and something to set the nut on top, and because you gotta get the wire right through that nut and hit that. So let me see if I can get a little nubbin put on here. All right, let's see what happens. All right, success. Whew, everything's hot. All right, we got it out. 2 more to go. And after the other door, I jumped right to welding nuts on. I messed around with that thing for an hour and a half trying to get those out, and really ultimately I ended up welding nuts on, so that's why I jumped right to this. So let me get these other 2, we'll get this hinge off, and then we'll flip this over and see how much actual body filler is actually on the other side. Okay, I got my old polisher out. It will run at high speed, but you try to go lower speed like polishing and it just starts smoking and all kinds of stuff can happen. So if it burns up, it burns up. I got 24 grit on here, not super aggressive, but enough to get this body filler off here quick enough and not gouge the steel if I happen to get into the steel. So I think it's right in this area right here. I can actually see where the body filler has shrunk and checked out. So let me get a dust mask on and we'll see how thick this body filler really is. Okay, see if you get a topographical look at this thing. Dips down, up and down. Why I didn't hammer that out better, I have no idea. It could have been stretched right here, and I was over my head as a teenager. So I just did whatever the other guy did after I stripped it. He just put a lot of body filler, so I put a lot of body filler. We can certainly do better than that, or I'll reskin the door if I have to, but yeah, that's pretty thick right there. Okay guys, this door is pretty much ready to go. It needs a good pressure washing, but I got everything else off of it. You know, you run into there was like a little ball or something right here. It was like putty or something. The factory just pokes in that kind of crack and then just paints over everything. So I went through and chiseled off and chipped off all that kind of stuff, cleaned out the inside, got all the leaves, dirt, debris, everything I could out of there, and then we'll pressure wash the thing really well before it goes in the trailer to, you know, take it to the guy to dip it. So this door is pretty much done. That door is done. I don't think it has massive amounts of body filler on it, so I think it's pretty good to go. Now it's time to tackle the quarter panel, and I'm not looking forward to it. So I'm just gonna set the camera back, speed through this. It's just miserable, dirty, nasty work. So here we go. Okay, there's no easy way to do this except dive in, so let's hit it. Wow. I haven't even finished. I didn't find the end of it down there. And it's going all the way to the door jamb. Not really thick here, but it's pretty thick. I got a choice to make here. I'm gonna grind down right through here. This is where I think it was really the worst. And I think I may need to put a whole quarter panel on this thing. So this is really just going to be a waste of time trying to discover what's underneath here. You can see all the slide hammer marks right here. I don't know. Let me, I'm gonna grind this out right here. It sounds pretty solid. And then we're gonna make a decision. I'll probably grind here and here and see if this whole wheel well was destroyed. Okay, we can see all the slide hammer holes right there, but look at this. I do not remember it being like this. Look how deep that is. I mean, that's easily a ½ inch thick right there, if not more. Well, ½ inch. And it goes all the way down into here. And then we've got a similar thing going on there. So this quarter panel is going to be changed out. It's just faster to do it then than to try to repair this one. And who knows what else I'm going to find underneath here. I'm pretty disappointed. I do remember when I stripped this car, I got into this area and I did not strip all the body filler off. I just took the paint off the top and then refilled it and smoothed it out. Well, it wasn't that smooth. You saw the waves in it. So I don't think I even knew it was this thick. Not that really at that age I could do anything about it. I'm gonna get a chisel or a screwdriver and stick it underneath there and see if a big old chunk comes off. But pretty disappointed, but hey, it is what it is. This is not what you want to find. It's better to find rust, I think, than this. It's just getting worse. The farther I go in, it's still pretty pliable. All right, I'm going to keep chiseling on some of this. Just satisfy my morbid curiosity, I guess. But it's looking like this quarter panel, I'm going to change it out from one end to the other, I think. I was hoping just to do a small patch panel. But let me check it up front here and see how bad that is. And I'll bring it back and we'll take a look at it. Okay guys, I don't know what this car ran into or what ran into it, but it got it from one end all the way to the other. I just finished getting most of that body filler off. There's still some. I'll just let the tank get the rest. But we got all the thick stuff off, chiseled off most of the junk down there, but it's still pretty thick in some holes here. We're putting a new quarter panel on this thing. I just don't know how much of it I'm replacing. So we'll have to wait till we get it back. I do have a panel on that old car and I just went out there and looked at it. The driver's side looks really good. Tapped all over it, feels pretty sound. So I don't know. I don't know if I'm gonna buy a repop or if I'm gonna cut the one off that other body, because really that other body has no value to me. May have to somebody else, but if I can get good parts off of it for this car, that's what we're gonna do. Okay, let's go ahead and get this A-pillar cover off, just in case somebody needs to get one off, they can see how to do it. So there's 2 screws right here that would be underneath the fender normally. So 1, 2 right there. Then we've got 2 right here, 1 there, and 1 there. Now this one usually holds the clip right there to hold the window molding on. And then we have 1 screw right up here. And I had to drill that one out. I could not get it out. It would not come out. So I had to drill the head off of it. And then the last 3 screws are up in here. So I have 1 here, here, and there. So it's ready to come off. But like I mentioned earlier, I mean, you get it to pry up a little bit and start working it, but it is kind of glued up here. So let me set the camera down and see if we can't get this thing out of here. Okay, so like I said earlier, they have some kind of goo up in here. So you just kind of take a putty knife. There it goes. You can see it starting to fall out. Pretty hard, brittle stuff. So I'm just going to work this up in here. I don't want to bend any sheet metal. I don't want to tweak anything. I just want to get this to release. Okay. I got that, and I could feel it when I drove it in, when it actually hit steel, when I was going through that goo, whatever it is, and then I could feel it where it was hitting solid. So now we got to start prying it up, and we'll have to get this underneath here to release. Sometimes there's some putty up underneath there, so I got to get a tool up underneath it down at the bottom. Just kind of get it to break loose. I can get the putty knife in there and kind of pry up like this. Get this to release back over here again. Just kind of slow. There it goes. There we go. All right, we got it. So you can see that big old ball of goo in there. They just kind of pumped it in there and then just stuck that back on there. So that kind of sticks it all together, so that's why it's so hard to get off. But we got it off without bending it. Needs a little straightening right there. All the screw hole looks good. So just like that, 8-pillar cover is out of here. Okay guys, one of the last things I want to do before I pressure wash this car is flood wash all these cavities, you know, that get full of leaves, debris, just piles of dirt, like you see the mud coming out of there right now. So over all the years, all that stuff just kind of decomposes and sits down inside those holes, and it really doesn't come out because there's not much of a hole to let it out. So it's a good idea just to get in there and just flush it out the best you can and try to get all that out of there, so all that crap doesn't end up in the guy that's dipping your car, doesn't end up in his tank. So I'm gonna go through, I'm gonna do the front here really good. I can see leaves blowing out of there. I can see wads of dirt and other, I don't know what else coming out, but it's just a good idea. So I'm gonna go ahead and do this, and I'm gonna get the back really well too, and we'll see what comes out of there. Who knows, because that's all where all the stuff that was in the trunk ends up on the side where the quarter panels are. Okay guys, that's what came out. That's all the big stuff. That's not counting, you know, handfuls of sediment and junk and that's just packed down inside there. So these old cars really accumulate that stuff over in these corners. I mean, it just drops off in there, and that's really what's rusting your car from the inside out, because the water gets in there, no matter how it gets in there, then it settles down inside there instead of evaporating, or you can pull the plug and let it drain out. It's sitting down there with all that dirt, and it turns to mud and muck, and then it just holds on to that moisture for, instead of drying up in a couple of days, it'll hang on to it for a month. And that whole time, it's eating away at the bare steel on the inside. That's why most of these cars don't rust from the outside in, they rust from the inside out. So try to get, if you got a classic car, get a vacuum down in there, pull the plugs and get a hose down in there on a nice warm day, and you know, really rinse it out, get it cleaned out, and then park it out in the sun with the trunk open and let it dry. So I'm gonna jump on the pressure washer. I'm not gonna film any of that. It's just gonna be me getting covered and, you know, who knows what as I get this car cleaned up. But I'll bring you back. We'll take a look at it once it's sparkling clean. Okay guys, got it all cleaned up. It's looking really nice. I spent quite a bit of time up on the headliner here, getting all that goop out of there, and just blasting away, let it soak a little bit and come back to it. And got all up underneath the dash, everything really good. Went over everything at least 2 or 3 times. Got all the drains cleared, got the pressure washer stuffed down in all the holes, and waited till it ran clear. So it's pretty darn clean up underneath. I got it really good. So I'm really, I really think it's about as clean as it could get, you know, as far as what I can do. But I think I'm really doing myself a favor here, and so when it shows up to get dipped, I mean, it's really ready just to drop into the tank. They don't have to go, oh, well, you know, we got to clean all this crap off this car before we can put it in our tank. So, and it'll make it strip that much faster, I believe. So it's looking really good. It's nice and clean. I wish I could have done this before I started stripping it, but obviously that was impossible. Floor pan right here is all pushed up like they ran over a boulder or something. It got high-sided on it. We're gonna have to fix that later. But it's looking really clean. I got up underneath there, laid on that creeper for at least 30 minutes, pressure washing up underneath there. So it's pretty clean up underneath there. And in the trunk here, I re-cleaned everything again, and just pressure washing on this side. There was like a row of mud down in there, and getting that pressure washer in there, it exposed a couple more sockets, a bolt, another spring. I don't know why there's so many springs rolling around in this trunk, but I got that out, cleaned out really nice. The drains are running clear. I can get my fingers in there, feel there's nothing down inside there. So they're both very clean. The trunk is clean. Got all where the weather strippings were, blasted really good to get all the old glue and stuff out. So it is looking really good. And the doors and the fenders and the trunk lid, inner fender wells, they're all going to get the exact same treatment. I'm going to get them as clean as possible, so when it gets there, they're really ready just to drop in the tank. I even did this quarter panel, and I'm going back and forth on what I need to do here. My appointment's coming up fast when I need to have the car there, but I really don't want to send it with this quarter panel when I plan on replacing it. I've got the one off the other car, so I don't know, I'm going back and forth if I should cut the other one off, cut this off, and get that one on before it goes. I think I have enough time, I'm not sure. So, I'm gonna have to think about that, but I really hate to send it with this one that's gonna be, cut off anyway. So, I don't know, I'm gonna have to think about that. Okay guys, that pretty much wraps up this video on Project Ruby, getting her nice and clean, getting everything stripped off. Hopefully this is the last dirty, nasty job on this car, so I can get on to more cleanish type work. This has kind of been a little grungy, a little dirty, a little nasty with all that mouse poop and all that other stuff. But the car, the body is clean, it's clean as I can get it. I got as much seam sealer scraped out. I've got all the pockets and all the little holes cleaned out of all the gunk from 57 years, so I feel like it's ready to go right in their tanks, and it should speed up the process and hopefully get the car back to me just as clean as when it was built. And that would be awesome to have this thing completely stripped down, no residue of anything when I get it back, which is not always guaranteed when they dip the car. He told me straight out, it only stays with me a week, so it's as clean as I can get it in that amount of time. So I think I'm doing myself a favor here. The rest of the parts, the doors and all that stuff, I'll do that right now as soon as I'm done with this. That should be easy peasy. Put everything out in the sun, let it dry, and it's basically everything's ready to go, to get it dipped. So the last thing is that quarter panel. I think I need to sleep on that, come up with some sort of game plan and figure out what I'm going to do. But honestly, I think I'm leaning towards getting that other quarter panel on there before it goes to get dipped. So thanks for joining me here at Foothill Paint Fabrication. Don't forget to hit the like and subscribe button if you haven't already. Mash that bell, drop me a comment, and keep working on this project, guys, and send me those pics. We'll see you on the next one.